Hey guys, Ken with Pragmatic Progressives here. Apparently, there's a good portion of Bernie Sanders supporters that are not willing to let this Nevada convention debacle go, and they're really doubling down on justifying what happened there and really doubling down on the narrative that the fix was in, that they did nothing wrong, and all that kind of thing. So we're going to double down on the truth and the reality because I think it's important. I think it's important to clarify this because this is something that should never happen again within the Democratic Party. And just as Hillary Clinton recently said she's coming out against Trump as hard as she is at this stage in her campaign because she thinks it's important for the American people not to get in this mindset that Donald Trump is running a normal campaign, that this is shouldn't be viewed as normal in American politics. I think it's important that we view this Nevada convention as not being normal and not allowing this to be normalized within the Democratic Party. So let's just go over the basics of what transpired here in Nevada, shall we? The Bernie Sanders delegates there had a plan to overturn the results of the Nevada caucus, and it failed. It failed for a very simple reason, primarily that nearly 500 of their own delegates were no-shows, and they didn't have enough votes to make it happen. They were the ones seeking to change rules at the last minute. No rules were changed, okay? So because they failed at doing that, a couple hundred, 1 to 200 estimated Bernie Sanders supporters harassed Barbara Boxer. They were shouting all sorts of obscenities, a lot of misogynist stuff, a lot of threatening stuff, a lot of obviously very disrespectful things. And this was before Barbara Boxer even started speaking. Okay, a lot of the Sanders supporters are claiming that she was acting unprofessional and that she was egging them on, etc., etc. This is just absolute malarkey. They were trying to cover up the cameras, stopping her from speaking even before she started. And her speech started off as a unity speech. That's all she was calling for, was for unity in the Democratic Party, and that's how they treated her. And that's when she decided she wasn't going to take it. Barbara Boxer's old school, long-time revered, respected, progressive, one of the most progressive leaders we have in this country. And she's not going to take that kind of nonsense. And good for her. Secondly, what else happened? Roberta Lang, she was threatened. She was threatened at her work. They tried to get her workplace shut down. Her family was threatened. The lives of her and her family. They were shouting death threats to her, at her from the crowd. And they were wondering why Roberta Lang rushed off the stage so quickly. Well, if you had an angry mob shouting death threats at you, I think you'd try to get off that stage and out of there as soon as you could as well. Well, what's also notable is later that same day, the Democratic Party headquarters there in Nevada was vandalized by these people. It's also really startling to me is that it took Bernie Sanders about 3 days to issue a really clear statement on all of this. And when he did, it was an apology with a caveat. It was an apology with a big but. It was an apology for death threats that, and it was actually, he denounced death threats while literally saying, however, in the same sentence. I mean, that is really reckless, irresponsible stuff. Now, here's the big irony. Here's the big bombshell in all of this. Bernie Sanders, as well as supporters, often accuse the system of being rigged against them. They often accuse the system of cheating to win. Well, they are the people that they accuse the system of being. Okay? Don't protest too much, right? What they've been trying to do every step of the way is change the rules in midstream and cheat their way into the nomination. That is very systemic from the top down. Bernie Sanders was against superdelegates. He railed against superdelegates and saying they should be banned while defending caucuses, which are arguably just as, if not more, undemocratic. And now he's trying to win by superdelegates, overriding the popular vote for Hillary Clinton. And what was the Sanders camp and their surrogates' response to all of this? That it wasn't really violent. It wasn't technically violent. That no chairs were thrown as originally reported. No chairs were thrown. So that was the focal point that they rallied around. No chairs were thrown. We even saw hashtags. No chairs thrown. Can you believe this, folks? Talk about willful ignorance and deflection. Does it really matter if chairs were thrown or not at this point? It's such a moot point to make in context. Anyway, thanks for listening. Until next time.